On page 492 is the cosine law. On your formula, it comes in two different forms. It comes in this form, c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c, and also cos c equals a squared plus b squared minus c squared. So when you're solving triangles, the first thing you're going to look at, here we go. When solving triangles, one, first thing you're going to look at, does it have 90 degrees? Because if it has 90 degrees, then you can use all your trigonometry from last year. So you can use SOHCAHTOA and a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If it doesn't, if it doesn't, then you are first going to look and see if you can use the sine law. No 90 degrees. A, you're going to look if you can use the sine law. Do you remember when we can use the sine law? What was the circumstance that you could use the sine law? You can use the sine law if you need an angle and its opposite side. If you have an angle and its opposite side, then you can use the sine law. If you don't have an angle and its opposite side, then we go to the next resort, which is the cosine law. We use the cosine law when we have two sides and the angle between them. Or all three sides. So that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at today with the cosine law. So up till now, for trigonometry, grade 10, you had a 90-degree angle. You could use SOHCAHTOA and a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Grade 11, we start to look at triangles that don't have a 90-degree angle, and we can solve them using the sine law or the cosine law. We tend to use the sine law first. We use the sine law if we know an angle and its opposite side. If we don't know an angle, it's an opposite side, then we have one of the two situations here, either two sides and the angle between them, or all three sides. So let's look at an example. Example 1. In each triangle, solve for the length of QR to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. So first of all, we look, these aren't 90-degree angle triangles. So we can't use SOHCAHTOA or a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We want to solve for QR, which is little p, opposite of angle p. And if we wanted to use our sine law, we would look and see, do we have an angle and its opposite side? Well, the only angle we have is 31 degrees, and we don't know its opposite side. So we won't be able to use the sine law. So we're going to use the cosine law. Now your cosine law is written out with letters c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. And the only thing you really need to know about trigonometry with the sine law and the cosine law, because if we look at this triangle, is there any a's, b's, or c's? No. We have p's, r's, and q's. The key thing to this cosine law and the key thing with the sine law is the letters really don't matter as long as you make a relationship that this side C goes with the opposite side, opposite angle C. That's the key thing in this formula. So if I'm going to use 31 degrees in the formula, then over here is going to be p squared because p goes with the opposite angle of 31. The other sides, doesn't matter which one you pick for which. So I have a squared, I can go 10 squared plus 17 squared minus 2 times 10 times 17 cos of 31. Plugging in the sides, you could have switched it around, it would be fine. The key thing, like I said, is that an angle goes with the opposite side here in the cosine law. And the rest doesn't matter. If you can remember that, then the formula is easy to use. Now we're going to go to our calculator and type this whole thing in. So we have 10 squared plus 17 squared minus 2 times 10 times 17 times cos of 31. Just going to double check that I'm in degrees. Push enter and we get 97.56. So writing this out, I now know that p squared is 97.56. If I'd like to solve for p, I'm going to have to square root both sides. Square root of my answer, and p is 9.877. Does this ask us to round it to the nearest tenth? 9.9 centimeters. So again, just like the sine law, once you enter things into your formula, it's really quite easy to solve for and quite easy to use. Again, for the second one, we're going to want to solve for p here as well. Again, over here you'll have cos of 131. It doesn't matter which side you put first. Once again, we can type this whole thing into our calculator. 17 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 17 times 10 cos of 131, 612.06. So square root both sides, and p is equal to 24.7 centimeters. When solving, the angle or the side opposite the biggest angle will always be the biggest side. The side opposite the smallest angle will always be the smallest side. So in this case, 131 is definitely the biggest angle in that triangle. Side P should be longer than the other two sides, and it is. Something that you can use just as a check to see if my answer is reasonable. Okay? Does it make sense that the side P couldn't be longer than 27 centimeters? Because the other two sides, if they were flat, would make 27 centimeters. If you had anything longer, there's no way you could possibly draw a triangle. Okay, questions for practice on this one? Questions 3, 4, and 6. Don't do 6 yet. We'll just do 3 and 4.